producer David S. Goyer. John Constantine himself, Matt Ryan. He's good, isn't he? And the actress playing Zed, Angelica Salaya. And you saw her back at the very end of the pilot. All right. So David, I know you work with a lot of DC's biggest hitters, Batman, Superman. What is singularly special about John Constantine for you?
He is a bastard. And we have not deballed him for network TV, I promise you. He is a jerk in this show.
Indeed.
And so much fun to write.
So much fun to play.
So speaking of that, Matt, I know you nail a lot of things about Constantine we all love. The look, the attitude, the voice. When you first started playing, developing the character and figuring out what you were going to do with him, was there one place where you started from for him?
I started reading comics. David just gave me a bunch of comics to read, and I delved in and just started taking notes and letting this character come off the page to me and kind of just try to glean as much as I could, really. I mean, there's so much there to get from, it's amazing.
What's your favorite so far?
I've got to say my favorite run so far is The Dangerous Habits. That's awesome. That's one of the first ones that David gave to me as well to read.
And if we stay on the air long enough, so that's where you guys come in, we'll definitely be doing that story arc. We've already adapted actually quite a number of interesting issues and arcs within the first 12 episodes. So you'll see some of your favorite issues show up.
Angelica, we got to see a little bit of you there, at least your artistic ability. Tell us about Zed and kind of what's she like and what's her role in Constantine's life?
Well, she's a little badass, and she doesn't stand for Constantine's BS. Yeah. And she's a little crazy one. She's a little weirdo.
It's great because she really doesn't take any of John's BS, as Angelica said. It really gets in his face, and it really makes for an interesting kind of dynamic and an interesting chemistry between them.
Yeah, it's a lot of push and pull, or sometimes just push and push.
Yeah, they're great. They're fantastic together, and if any of you are familiar with the Zed character, the comics, she has a really interesting backstory herself that we'll be delving into as well.
Is it going to be a slow burn with Zed and John, or will we get that next? What do
you mean by slow burn?
Well, I mean, will we not see her again for a while, or will we get her?
No. We throw a bunch of petrol on everything in the next episode. Light it on fire. It gets ridiculous, and then Papa Midnight shows up in episode 3, and it gets.
Woo! Then we got Jim Corrigan.
Jim Corrigan shows up a couple episodes later, and then it gets. I can genuinely say what you hope when you do a pilot is that the subsequent episodes get better and better, and the first 6 or 7, we're so proud of them, and these guys they're just nailing it and mainlining it, and the show's really come together. It's been fun.
I know you guys have your Papa Midnight with Michael James Kelly. Will we see any other kind of familiar faces from the comics?
We will, yeah. We'll be introducing a bunch of the characters from the Newcastle crew as well. So we'll be seeing Gary Lester, we'll be seeing Anne-Marie Flynn, and some of the others as we go down the line.
Jeremy Davis, who plays Richie, is also a recurring character, and Anne-Marie, who's actually in the American Gothic storyline. Eventually Frank will be showing up, and some of the other characters from the DC universe will be sort of filtering in over the first 12 episodes. Dr. Ray! Eventually, someone is going to show up claiming that helmet that you saw. But with Corrigan, we've got to introduce Corrigan first. But there is a nod to his future in the first episode. And actually, Zed's kind of involved in that, which is kind of cool.
And Matt, doing a supernatural show sometimes means a lot of weird stunts and just a lot of weird stuff happening to you.
All the time.
All the time. What's the weirdest so far?
I don't know. I swear. I swear to God that the David and the writers, they just sit there and try and figure out what they can do to me each episode. And one of David's episodes that he co-wrote, that he had me naked, covered in blood, doing this weird spell sermon.
Yeah. To a Buzzcocks song.
To a Buzzcocks song. Just going,
yeah.
It was really good fun, but I was
covered in chicken blood.
Yeah, and I was in blood all day, and then I couldn't sit down. And when I did sit down, I was sticking to the furniture, and it was pretty uncomfortable. And then I think David's got me like tied up, and they're doing all sorts of things.
You're like spread eagled in one episode.
They put me through the ringers.
All the laser getting.
We had to teach him a safe word.
One of the things that's great about that, the original Hellblazer series was it had so many good writers, and it went to so many deep places, in terms of human versus monster, facing your own demons literally or metaphorically. Is there going to be a lot of that in the series too, where John's going to have to face demons from his past, present, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, and truly, I mean, we're privileged to be able to access some of the best writers and artists in the business have worked on Constantine and Hellblazer, and to have all of those kind of issues at our fingertips. And look, if we go into a second season, I would love to have some of those writers write episodes for us as well.
And Helika, other than Zed, for you, what is the coolest part of the show?
Honestly, it's working with these guys right here. It's the whole team behind it. We've been working months before we premiere October 24th, and so really we've been going and giving it 110% every single day. And to me, is this family we've built, and this bond and the trust that that we get into the zone and we set. The momentum and our creative juices flow out, and everybody's extremely respectful, and to work, with Matt, and that I can just throw myself into the scene and he'll catch it, and that to me is a blessing every single day to do that.
It's also crazy because we're about to start shooting episode 10, so we've got so much under our belt and none of it's premiered yet, so we're just finally excited to get it out there.
Is there going to be a mid-season cliffhanger?
I like cliffhangers, if anyone's seen my other shows.
Matt, in the pilot we just saw, we got to see you facing off with Devil You. What was that like? I mean, was it fun kind of playing, obviously you've gotten used to playing this character already, but playing the hellish character, was that fun?
Yeah, so much fun. I mean, when David told me that we were going to be doing that, I was just like over the moon. The only thing is you can hardly see with those contact lenses in, so you're kind of like just trying to find yourself. But it's great, and John's got so many demons himself, and he's so tormented. It's just like trying to pick what parts you could represent, and there's so much. We could go so much further with that as well, with the demons of John, and it's just so much fun to play.
David, what was it about Matt's audition, or what did you see in Matt where you were like, okay, that's my guy in the trench coat, that's what I want?
One of the hardest things to do in this very privileged position that we're in is to kind of stick to your guns and stick to your belief, sometimes even when initially everyone else is saying you're crazy. And so Matt, we had seen hundreds of people, and Matt sent in this self-audition, and he self-taped. No offense, it was horribly lit. And he was doing a play at the time, and he had this giant Sasquatch beard and didn't look anything like Constantine, and he gave this great performance, but it was very hard to see John Constantine in there, and I was just running around the halls at Warner Brothers saying, this is the guy, this is the guy, and they were saying, no, that's not the guy. No, this is the guy, this is the guy. And so they said, no, it's not the guy, and I said to our casting director, don't let him out of his option. And so we brought in some other actors to test, and I would just subtly try to sabotage the because I knew that Matt was the guy, and so I was just waiting for Matt's play to end so he could shave his freaking beard. And so like 3 weeks went by, and I did a good job sabotaging the other auditions, and then Matt shaved his beard, and I said, this is the guy, and then they said, well, maybe it's the guy, and then He said, well, will he fly out and do it in person? Then he flew out and did it in person, and then finally they said, okay, this is the guy. But it was excruciating. Daniel, my partner, and I were just saying, it's him, it's him, it's him. But it was nice that we finally...
Well, I did have like long hair and a big beard.
He looked like the Unabomber.
Very different.
Matt, what's the trickiest thing about playing Constantine? Well, I mean, in terms of as you've gone on, has there been like a tricky thing about him for you?
I mean, he's such a three-dimensional, multifaceted character that you just want to kind of be true to the DNA of the character in the comic books, but also make it your own as well. You know, so it's kind of something that I'm still working out. You know, I'm getting to know him more and more. And as David said, we're on episode 10 now, and it's deepening. It's fleshing it out, and it's getting underneath his skin, and it's hell of a ride, man. This is such an awesome character to play, and I hope to be playing it for a long time because there's so much there.
Again, that's up to you guys. Tell your friends.
There's probably not as many curse words and cigarettes being smoked. It is NBC. So. But enough. So
there's some artful language happening. I'm kind of surprised at what we've gotten away with, actually.
Yeah. I'm with the cigarettes as well. It's like we're constantly finding ways of getting it in there. So you've got to look out for that as well. See it as like a challenge rather than a hindrance. Like every episode, it's like, where is it going to be? And we're finding all sorts of ways to kind of get it in there. I'm finding that really fun as well.
I think it's about time to wrap up. But David, before we go, anything you want to tell us? Anything exclusive, scoopy that you want to let us know about?
God, was I supposed to prepare something?
Anything else, you know?
Exclusive and scoopy.
Scooby. I thought he said Scooby.
We're Scooby. I mean,
We've already said Midnight's coming on. We've already said Corrigan's coming on.
Is Lucifer
here's the thing about Lucifer. He's in the background, but that's not a guy that you want to sort of bring on the stage. You got to build up to it. You hear, we do a whole episode. He's also referred to as the first of the fallen. You hear his voice in the third episode.
And it's not good to hear his voice.
What?
5 seasons then Lucifer.
5 seasons then Lucifer. Which character would you guys like to see the most?
Papa Midnight! Zatanna!
Dr. Fate, okay. Raven. I'm lobbying right now for Detective Chimp.
Yes!
I second that. On that note, thanks so much for coming, and let's thank our guest, David S. Boyer.